What's up, YouTube? It's your girl, Sage Valentine. I'm back here with another Eviction Night review for CBS's Big Brother Season 22, All Stars Season number 2. This is pretty much my review for episode number 7. So what did you think about tonight's eviction? Me personally, it didn't surprise me at all because as soon as she was nominated, I knew that she was going to go home. It was between her and David, and people felt like David didn't get a fair shot last season, and he didn't. I'm going to put all my other feelings about David aside and say, you know what, he didn't. So I knew that Nicole was in trouble. Unfortunately, Nicole realized that as well. And coupled with other things that she was feeling, she was like an open wound, and it just came gushing out. And it was like she was trying to get these people like Davon and Bailey and Christmas to vote to keep her. But at the same time, she didn't trust them, which you really can't trust anybody in Big Brother. And then quite a few folks convinced her that she could not trust Janelle because Janelle was targeting her. At no point was Janelle targeting her at all. See, the problem with this week started when Memphis became HOH, because I knew as soon as Memphis became HOH, it was going to be a hot mess. And it was. Because at first, he made everybody consider playing in the safety suite, save for, Kaser and Janelle. Play in the safety suite because nobody was safe. And I'm just like, all right, let's see how this is going to go. Then he was talking to Cody, and he was throwing out names, and he just kept throwing out, Nicole and David. So I'm like, they're probably going to be nominated. Then once the safety suite happened and Christmas won and she picked Ian, he was upset because he wanted to target Ian. And I'm like, why didn't you tell Cody you wanted to target Ian initially? Why would you tell everybody to play in the safety suite if you wanted to target Ian? Memphis just hasn't changed after all these years. He just has not changed at all. So he ended up nominating Nicole and David. He nominated Nicole because she did not follow his directions. This was his excuse. And she did not play in the VIP safety suite. She didn't use her little VIP pass. And pretty much David was nominated because he's new to the game and he was welcoming him to the quote-unquote big boy table. And I was just like, come on, Memphis, seriously, like, dude. And we didn't really get to see his actual speech. And I wish Big Brother had shown that speech, because the reaction to it afterwards on the feeds showed everybody in the house was pissed off. Especially about him calling David boy, which for those who don't know, it has some like really offensive racial connotations. I don't know if he meant it that way, but a lot of people took it that way. So I'm not going to go any more into that. I'll just leave a link to my racism and reality TV below this video in the description box. Anyways, pretty much Memphis ended up winning the veto, and he didn't use it, and I'm not surprised. Not at all. Memphis, in my opinion, was the worst person to get the HOH this week. I'm not even that upset that Tyler won HOH this week because there won't be pandemonium. Because last week was literal pandemonium, especially on the feeds. I felt so sorry for Nicole, though. After a while, I was kind of annoyed because I was just like, you really need to campaign. And I was just so annoyed. Like, Nicole, go campaign. Stop getting upset and campaign. All right, so Janelle pretty much said after the veto box was closed that Memphis missed a huge opportunity to backdoor Nicole Franzel, and she's correct. Nicole Franzel said, clearly you don't care about your alliance because the alliance came up with this idea of Memphis using the veto, taking down David, and then putting up Janelle. And they could have voted Janelle out of the house. Memphis was saying to us that he wanted to play neutral as far as the game was concerned, and he didn't want to break a tie. And everything that they're saying about Memphis playing both sides, he pretty much is. Will this help him or hurt him in the game? That's the question. That's the big question. So Nicole starts campaigning. She talks to Davon. Davon tells her, listen, I wish I could save you, but I can't because I really don't want to be that person to vote out a black person in this game, especially given everything that's happening. And I think really she was talking about the reaction of the fans. Little did she realize a lot of the fans were upset because they were just like, of all the black people to save, and you want to save David, and David would definitely not do that for you. I feel the same way. He definitely wouldn't. After what he did to Kimmy last season, I wouldn't trust David. I'd trust Tyler more than I would trust David. And we all know what Tyler did during season 21. No, season 20. So Nicole tells Davon, listen, you got to think for yourself. You got to play your own game. Will David help you, essentially? Instead of looking at it like he could be the first black winner, you could be the first black winner. I added the black part. She said African-American. I added the black part. So Kaser talked to Davon, and he had a good idea. He's like, listen, Davon, we need to get a group together because we have got to fight that other alliance. And at this time, they only thought it was 4 people. Little do they know it's 6 people. 6 people. I had 7. 6 people. And he tries his best to convince Dave to join this alliance with him and Janelle and Kevin and even bring in Bailey and Nicole. But Davon's looking at it like, well, you know, Kaser needs a number, so that's the reason why he wants to work with you. I'm like, see, this is my issue with some of the players in this game. If you're going to play in an all-star season, you guys have to watch the other seasons to know, because it seems like the older players have watched the seasons. The newer players haven't really watched these seasons. Now, I'm not saying sit down, spend all your time watching the seasons, but like really look at the stuff from the previous seasons, like the early seasons. Like Tyler did that. And that's why Tyler's doing fine at the game right now. I mean, granted, he's making alliances with everybody, but nobody's really looking at him as a target. So far, so good for Tyler. So Davon talks to David, and she's telling him, because Kaser mentioned that David is on the outskirts of that alliance, but he is in an alliance. And David's kind of sitting back, kind of like being cagey. And I'm just like, she's trying to warn you, like, dude, what are you doing? And Davon is just kind of aggravated after a while with him, which is understandable because he's not really saying anything to her, but she's asking him questions. I don't know if he thought that she was going to, I guess, run around and tell people everything, but at the same time, if somebody wants to help you in the game, let them give you some pointers or something, especially if you were the first person kicked out the game. I mean, given the circumstances of season 21 still, like, he acted like he had it like that. The same guy who asked what a veto was asking all those questions. What was it, last week? Anyway, Davon tells us, she's like, listen, David is being foolish. I've been in here going on 3 times, but let him do what he got to do. So then David goes to Bailey and says, you got to tell Davon to chill and not help me, meaning he doesn't want to be linked to Davon. Sweetheart, the fact that you walked in the house and talked to Davon and Bailey, you guys are already linked up being the 3 black people in the house. I had to say it, I'm sorry. But they're all linked up from being the 3 black people in the house. It just is what it is, but I digress. And Davon, after this, because she starts having a conversation with Bailey, and it's a long one because I saw most of it, and she's just like, listen, he's got to go. I mean, you know, he can go. I really just don't care. He does not contribute to my game at all. And at the same time, Nicole storms into the house, and Big Brother showed us in this episode what happened with that conversation. I actually got a chance to see that clip because that conversation was happening the same time as Bailey and Davon's conversation. So Nicole rushed in, and I was about to go to sleep, and then I'm looking, and Nicole's all upset. She won't say anything. She says she's expendable. Janelle comes in trying to comfort her. Kaser's trying to comfort her. She doesn't want to talk to anybody, and I think she ends up essentially talking to Janelle later on, though. But during that conversation that Nicole had with Janelle and Kaser, I think what happened was that Janelle and Kaysar were upset about the situation because Janelle was right. Memphis definitely messed up this week with these nominations because they don't make any sense, and his reasoning didn't make any sense at all. But then again, Memphis, as a player, in my opinion, never really made any sense anyway. You guys might differ with your opinions, but to me, he never really made any sense. He just always did, like, wild card stuff. So Kaysar is like, listen, you being nominated is not about you. David is really the target in this situation. Kaysar tells him Memphis is a wild card, and essentially Nicole, I believe it's Nicole who tells us that people told her she can't trust Janelle. Janelle's destroying her game. She's coming after Janelle and Kaysar and wants her head on a stick. I forgot to also mention that Kevin's been talking to Nicole, and Kevin is also the reason why Nicole is kind of like, was really upset. Davon at this point is like, you know, questioning things and kind of like, at this point, frazzled, which anybody in Big Brother trying to make any type of big decision at any time can be frazzled. It's not like she's the only person who's frazzled in the game. But anyway, Kevin has a lot to do with that. Then other people saying stuff has a lot to do with it. Because then there was another point sometime this week when I was watching the feeds, and it was like, I believe it was this morning, and Enzo and Tyler and Cody and all the rest of them were laughing because they said Davon was playing too hard and she's so paranoid and all this stuff. I'm like, there were instances when each one of those people in that room was paranoid when they played the game, but I will digress. So Cody considers keeping Nicole A because she said that she wants to go after Janelle. Nicole doesn't think so, and didn't think so during that conversation, and didn't even think so during the conversation that happened this morning at around like 4 or 5 o'clock this morning, 6 o'clock this morning. But it was basically a conversation where Nicole was what's the word? She was campaigning, and she was trying. It was her last effort to get Bailey, Davon, and Christmas to swing their votes towards David and not towards her, and they weren't budging, and they wouldn't believe that that big alliance was going to go after them, and they wouldn't believe that they were in the middle of the house. They just wouldn't listen at all. They didn't feel like outsiders, and they let it know. I'm not an outsider. I'm not an outsider. But anyway, poor Nicole didn't realize until she left the house that Janelle and Kaysar were trying to help her because Julie Shen let her know. All right, so pretty much we got down to the the eviction ceremony. David made his speech, said he appreciated Nicole. She was gracious to him, and he wanted to be here in the game and fight. Nicole said she came to play All Stars. Kudos for targeting me, Memphis. Best of luck to everyone. Kudos to the alliance, and to everyone else that's not in that alliance, take action. So it came down to the vote. I kind of thought it was going to be a split. Again, I was up late this morning watching the feeds, trying to hear what they were talking about, and it seemed like it was going to be a split. Some people said this morning that it seemed like Cody and Enzo and the others were going to like vote out Dave and keep Nicole, but that's not what happened. In a vote of 2-10, Nicole was evicted from the Big Brother house. Enzo and Kevin voted to keep her because Kevin is clearly her ride or die, and Enzo surprised me. But I shouldn't be surprised, though. But he definitely surprised me with this vote. I figured he'd go with everyone else unless he's just trying to be that hinky vote, and they told him to be the hinky vote. Anyway, Tyler, Christmas, Janelle, Davon, Kaysar, Bailey, Cody, Ian, Nicole Francel, and Danny all voted to evict Nicole, and Nicole was evicted. Now, Nicole spoke to Julie Chen Moonves, and I love when she says that because she says it so quickly, like she's like, I gotta get it through, I'm Julie Chen Moonves. It's actually really cute. Anyway, Nicole says that she thought that Janelle and Kaysar were working with Memphis, and Julie Chen let her know that, you know, you were misled. They were not working with Memphis. They were trying to help you. She said there was a big alliance, and she showed her the pictures of the 6 people in that alliance, and Nicole was just taken aback. We got to hear the goodbye messages. Kaysar said that he tried his best to campaign, and he and Janelle feel like they failed her. And you could tell that Kaysar was really emotional. He wasn't putting on any sort of like performance or anything. Like, you could see the tears in his eyes. He was really upset. Davon said she had to stick to her guns, and she hopes that they could be friends outside the house. Davon's going to regret making that decision now. Janelle said the votes didn't come through. You were a casualty of war, and Memphis really messed everything up. Kevin said, can't wait to see you again on the outside. So he really was her ride or die, but he was also giving her like weird information because his reads on everything that was happening in the house, there were instances where he was getting stuff, and then there were instances where he was a little bit off. Like, again, everybody's frazzled in Big Brother All Stars. This thing is just crazy. Nicole said, you know, it's my fault. It was my error, and, you know, or her error. And Julie Chen was like, listen, I could hug you, but, you know, with COVID, I can't really hug you. I felt bad for Nicole because, like, I'm sure when the cameras went off, she really started bawling. She and Keisha were the two people who should not have been evicted in the past 2 weeks, in my opinion. It should have been two big targets. I thought this was an all-star season. All-star seasons are supposed to be like wild. It shouldn't be like, okay, let's get the week one, even though Keisha wasn't weak. The week one, and let's go. Like, no. Big targets. Hopefully this week, Big Brother throws in something crazy to slip up the house or something. If it doesn't happen this week, let it happen next week, because that other alliance thinks that they're untouchable, and this is Big Brother. Anything can happen. So we got to the HOH competition. It was called Mug Shots, where they pretty much had to push like a mug of beer down this long table. They had to do it 3 times. So Cody had 4 points. He did it in 1887 seconds. Enzo beat him and got it in 8 points. He received 8 points, 1581 seconds, so he became the first, the number 1 person. David got 6 points, 1604. Christmas got 8 points, 1748. Davon 7 points, 1634. Kevin 7 points, 1571. He would have made it, but his mug went off the edge of the table. Ian 10 points, so he became the new number 1 because he did it in 15.71 seconds. So he remained number 1 even after Nicole with her 9 points and 1670. Danny 4 points, 1543. Tyler 12 points, 1407. Then Tyler became the number 1. Bailey played 7 points. She got 1492. Janelle 11 points, 1285. And Kaysar, I think Kaysar got 7 points, was it? But he was 1890, and Tyler became the new HOH. And Julie Chen pretty much, trying to find a tissue, but Julie, I keep touching my face because it's so weird. Hold on. Whew. Give me 1 second. I don't know what is going on. Me and summer and allergies just don't work. Anyway, to end this video, pretty much what happened was that they turned on, I guess they went back, not even turned on because I'm thinking of the feeds. Julie Chen went back to the house, and you see David sitting in the room with Nicole F. and Danny. And I was like, so David pretty much chose his side. So we'll see how things are going to go with Tyler as an HOH, but at least there won't be pandemonium. The feeds will be interesting, I'll tell you that. I'm more than sure Janelle and Kaysar will be on the block. Unless, of course, there's a new target. You never know when it comes to Big Brother. Anyway, let me know what you thought of tonight's episode. Leave me some comments, and I'll see you guys next week, and I'll stay up on the feeds, and I will definitely have a lot to say next week. Love you all. Take care. Bye, guys. Love you all. Bye.